like my first thought is, all right, let's move into action. We have 100 people and 100 families and clients to serve, right? So let's focus on that. But really no judgment or no anything. It's like, let me find out what the real truth is. People are already a little bit worried that they're going to lose their jobs. And now it's exacerbated. And now the client is also wondering, are these guys going to be able to keep it going and keep the continuity?
Hey there, friend. This is Stephanie Crevens, and you're listening to the Mid-Level Leaders Hot Mess Hotline, where we have conversation with C-suite executives to learn from their hot messes, their hard problems, their political, emotional, icky situations that they worked through and came out the better for it on the other side. You are in the right place, my friend. If you are an ambitious learner who strives to grow every day, to advance in your career, not just for the title or the money, but because you want to do something important and impactful in the world, you're here with your people, my friend, and I'm so glad you're here. So today's guest is a new friend of mine. Her name is Whynde Kuehne. She is the founder and managing director of S2E Transformation, and they help organizations bridge the gap between strategy and execution. Thus, S2E. Get it? Waha! Whynde has extensive experience in enterprise transformation and planning and is so passionate about being an advocate for business architecture to enable effective strategy execution in business and digital transformation, which is hot and heavy needs for our businesses right now as we figure out what life through and out of the pandemic is, moving through 2022 and way beyond. A little bit more about Whynde. She was a key business architect in one of the largest business transformation companies in the world, and also led one of the largest business architecture consulting practices. She has extensive experience in a wide array of organizations around the globe, and you're going to hear about those experiences today. She's a longtime business architecture pioneer, practitioner, educator, community builder, and is recognized as a global thought leader. We are so lucky that she chose to spend her time with us to share her hard-earned lessons from her hot mess. Friends, I'm so excited too, because she has a book coming out September 2022 that I hope you'll pick up. It's called Strategy to Reality, Making the Impossible Possible for Business Architects, Change Makers, and Strategy Execution Leaders. And my friends, if you're my people, if you're a pro troublemaker, if you're an ambitious leader, you're a change maker, you're going to want to pick up this book. All right, let's dig into this wonderful, amazing, painful hot mess that Whynde found herself in after a 3-minute conversation a little more than 7 years ago. Let's go.
Sure.
All right. Well, you ready to party, Whynde?
Let's party. Yeah. 2022. We party.
We party. Yes, I love it. It's 2022. We party. Oh my God. I love it so much. All right. We're going to have to roll with this as the intro. I love it. Whynde.
I love it. Yes,
yes,
please.
yes,
please.
Yes. Whynde, tell me about your hot mess, girlfriend.
Oh, let's talk about this hot mess. So
yes,
here's a little backdrop. So I'm working in a consulting practice, a business transformation and architecture consulting practice within a mid-sized consulting firm. And I've been there from the beginning. And I had a very, very close colleague, friend, co-creator, thought partner, and he and I really grew this practice to 100 people.
Wow.
And as the consulting practice grew, he took over leadership of it. So he's number one, I'm number two, still co-creating, doing all sorts of things. We had worked together at this very large client we had where most of our team was actually working. And then I went to start a new client. So now I'm at this new client. Life is good, leading a team, going great.
Yes.
And one day, and I'll never forget, I get this call from the managing director, right? So the leader of the consulting firm. And he tells me, and I remember this, I'm in the hall at the client side as he gives me this emergency call, and he says, my colleague has stepped down effective immediately. and there's an event of some pretty serious magnitude behind it. And would I lead the practice going forward? So that is the hot mess as it happened.
Whoa. I had to take a deep breath before you even finish that story. So, and let me ask you this. What was your trust level with the managing director? Was it high?
Really good question.
Yeah. And I'm going to go there before I go to your colleague first. But when you get this call, like, what were your emotional thoughts around, dude, what are you telling me
100% high. That's a really
right now?
good. That's a
Okay.
really good question. So I interacted with him a lot. So he's pretty hands off on the practice. High trust. Still don't really know the whole situation, but I understand the urgency, and I will tell you that my instinct was I will also never forget this. I got this image of a bridge, like I am supposed to be the bridge for this
Mm.
practice. There's no hesitation, no question. Am I going to do this? I literally am like, yep, step in, ready to go. Let's move into action.
Wow. Whew. All in about 3 minutes. All
On
of
about
this
3 minutes. Yeah, hiding in some corner. Yes.
Of course, of course. Oh my gosh. Wow. And I always like to acknowledge in these conversations, we all have multiple roles in these situations, right? You are the number two leader of a practice. Now, when we say number two, were you like number two from a technical perspective, not the people perspective? Or what did number two mean in that context?
You exactly nailed it. And that's
Okay.
actually what made this situation particularly challenging, but also a big growth opportunity for me. So 100%, I am a thought leader. I am star consultant, individual performer. Yes, I can lead teams. Yes, I can lead big work, big transformation, but I'm not a people manager, and my identity, my passion, my abilities are really around being that thought leader and consulting,
Mm.
managing the team.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Being a consulting leader, which is being able to package programs up, put a process in place, help people understand how they fit into the process, deliver it to the client, which is very different than being a people leader and making sure that your 100 folks are taken care of emotionally. They have their benefits, they know HR processes, they feel seen, heard, and understood. That's a different skill set and a different focus.
Exactly.
Okay. So then your colleague who has co-created this 100-person business inside of a larger business has just effectively been ripped away like a band-aid, like gone. Okay. And so,
Exactly.
ooh, your relationship with that colleague, which is a whole other role than you being thought leader within this practice, what were your immediate thoughts around what's going on with your co-creator?
We were so close. So for me, it's like whatever's happened, whatever the managing director just told me, he's still my friend. He will always be my friend and colleague. So that you're exactly right. That's a separate thread. I'm going to go talk to him and how is he feeling and what is his life right now. It's like my first thought is, all right, let's move into action. We have 100 people and 100 families and clients to serve, right? So let's focus on that. But really no judgment or no anything. It's like, let me find out what the real truth is.
Yes. And what I'm writing down, what you just said, I've never heard anyone articulate before. For some reason, it's going to make me cry, but you said we have 100 employees, we have 100 families to serve. Thinking about those that we work with in the context of their family that they have to provide for too, that puts a whole other level of responsibility on it, doesn't it?
And that is part of why the bridge, it's like, no, you just pick this up because all those people are depending, all those livelihoods, and then all the clients, all the people that we're helping and their jobs and their success on the line, right? So
Yes.
100%, this is about a whole ecosystem of people.
Oh, ecosystem. Yes. Wendy, you're so smart. Listen to this. OMG. All right. All right. So you get that call. Walk me through what's the next week like for you as a leader?
Absolutely. So if it wasn't that night, it was definitely the next morning, like a 6 a.m. flight. So
Yeah,
I'm
that
on a
night you need to pack, have you a little glass of brown liquor or something to be deal with it. If you're like me, right? Just a little something, something to get on a
That's right.
plane. Okay.
Give me the last breath for a little while here.
Uh-huh.
That's
Uh-huh.
right.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. But a lot happened in a week actually, right? So on a plane, right away, going back to where the major client is and where most of the team is, which now in retrospect, I think is really good because there was so much confusion. There was so many emotions around what was going on. People didn't have information. There was misinformation.
Of course.
Before that, right, the client account, it's just huge transformation and turbulence anyway, that people were worried that they maybe were going to be downsizing our consulting team a little bit. So going into that before this happened, people are already a little bit worried that they're going to lose their jobs. And now it's exacerbated. And now the client is also wondering, are these guys going to be able to keep it going and keep the continuity? So just being there on site the very next day, speaking with, of course, my leaders, speaking with key team members, and then just meeting with the client that day, most importantly, to understand. Thank God I had worked at that client for so long. And I think that gave them a feeling of peace that, okay, we have some uncertainty, but she's here. She's like, she knows us, she knows what we're doing. So just sort of all those conversations happened right away. And very quickly, I had an all hands meeting with my entire team in person. And here's where I just started doing stuff I couldn't have told you I would have done. I remember creating the deck for that presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed up with really a new vision of where we're going as a practice. It must have been just inside of me because it kind of came out so fast, but it's like
Yeah.
as soon as I had assumed that leadership position, the meeting is, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this together. So trying to instill that confidence and then also saying, but this is where we're going as a practice. And we now have an opportunity to actually build back better, right? And let's actually get some new client accounts. Let's actually build up this team. So it was what needed to be done anyway, but also a way to offset the what happens if I lose my job and do you really care about me?
Oh, yes. Ooh, so many good things here. Okay. So I want to go back to, and you touched on these. And what I love is there were all these versions of stories that everyone made up in their head based on who they are as a person that they then transfer to what they think is reality, but they're just versions of fiction. What were some themes of those stories that you heard in the moment? I heard one, the misinformation, we're all going to get fired, the client's going away. And so let's approach it from stories on the employee side, maybe stories on the client side that you had to address.
Oh, wow. Yeah, lots of stories. And you've clearly articulated some. I think on the employee side, it was just especially like what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to me now? What happens next? Is she going to lead like he did? Is she going to do something different? Are we going to be able to we know her? We look up to her as a thought leader and she has a track record, but is she going to be that leader that we need to feel confident in? I think maybe some of the managers may have also thought, what does this mean for me? I know my standing with him. Am I going to be, is she going to change anything? Is she going to change up the management structure? On the client side, I think there was, again, is this company going to be able to pull things off? Is she going to be able to, run the meetings like he did? Just all sorts of things, or what is there? Are there any integrity concerns that we have to worry about? Felt like a little bit, particularly with misinformation, there was just like a little break in trust on all sides. So just having to really rebuild that and just help everybody get confident and know that it's going to be okay. And in fact, different is even better.
Yes. Oh, yes. And I think about the nature of destabilizing events and how much opportunity sits in those that very few folks are able to see in the moment. It just, that truly is a gift and an emotional resilience that folks that can see the opportunity when shit just goes to shit. It's a level of resilience that is just such a gift to any team and organization. Oh, okay. All right. So many good things. Let me ask you this, as a leader in the moment, did you take that mistrust that was placed on you in your role? Did you take it personally, or were you able to separate it while you were in it, while you were working through that muck in the week and the month and the months following that event?
I really love that question because like there was so much faith in me and people so much rallied around me and they were so glad that I took that on. But
Oh,
I
wow.
did feel like they were all eyes looking at me like, oh, we hope you really do this. We hope you do what you think you can do, you know. I will say that actually, interestingly, it didn't get to me too much. I could separate it. For better or for worse, I think I am a person that I just saw the way forward so clearly, or what I thought was the best way. Of course, we can only do the best we can at the time. I mean, I'm kind of
Yes.
the person that if there's an emergency happening, I'm like, okay, all right, something happened. You do this, you do this, you do this. Or when I've seen really hard things in the world, or poverty, or just sort of awful things, funnel that not I funnel that by taking action in the
Mm,
best way I can. So I think that wiring allowed me to really separate. But you reminded me of something else that was really a backdrop here for me. And along this way, with this little bit of this mistrust, I'm also trying to find my own leadership style and voice that I hadn't really developed as a people manager at this point. I know how to be a thought leader, I know how to be a project leader, but I don't know how to be a people manager. And for me, that was also coupled with I'm a woman. How do I step into this? What is my voice? When am I directive? When am I not particularly? Because my colleague was a very strong, confident, smart male presence.
mm-hmm,
So that's
mm-hmm.
kind of the only thing that I'm just trying to figure out, how do I navigate that and all those eyes on me as a woman as well?
Yes. Oh, and that's so important because really, women, as they've grown in leadership in corporate environments, the only thing we've known up until fairly recently is you man up, you act like a man to fit in. And it was hard to accept other personas than that from women. I know I've certainly felt that myself. And I feel very fortunate that my natural personality style, well, that's up for debate, has some of that masculine and feminine energy. I've recently dug into the Enneagram and I'm in the process of getting certified in it. And what I'm learning through that process is really when we dig into our personalities are our maladaptive strategies for surviving childhood. And so what we think of as who we are in our personalities, and this is real deep, I'm going real deep and I'm not sure I'm even skilled enough to unpack it yet, but what we think of as who we are is our personality, which if you believe that your personalities are maladaptive strategies for surviving your environments as kids, even, and big T trauma, little T trauma, there's varying degrees of trauma because you couldn't always get your needs met by your parents or your caregivers because of their own human frailties, you know, so who are we? Like at the end of the day, who are we? I didn't mean to digress, but this is like something I'm fascinated by. And it plays directly into this women as leaders. And you were in a male dominated industry. And you're all of a sudden you're thrown into out of the shadow of a very strong male leader. Like, whoa. Okay. So what do you do with that? Like, tell me, Whynde, what did you do with that? I got all excited.
No, no, I love it. So interestingly enough, I really swear everything happens for a reason.
Oh God, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does.
Really. So at this time, And by the way, when this hot mess happens, I'm kind of disconnecting too. I'm like, kind of considering my own next chapter. I
Mm.
actually just gone through divorce, and
Mm.
I was working 12 months of hours in a 9-month period so that I could go do 3 months of pro bono in Africa every year.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
That may seem really non sequitur, but part of what I was doing there is I was working with the African Leadership Institute, which is an incredible organization, incredible people. This organization takes the top 25 young leaders across the continent every year, different perspectives, different countries, right, different industries, and they layer on leadership training, and actually they take the late Desmond Tutu's name, so they're called the Tutu Fellows, and they are charged to take the continent out of poverty, right, and step up to
Oh,
some pretty serious leadership. So as I've been working with them and immersed in African leadership values, which is very
ah,
American leadership values, and as
yes.
I'm watching these people who are changing nations, and they are humble and they just step up and they just do it, yet they do it with this elegance and humbleness. I had learned, I didn't realize I was learning. I thought I was just volunteering and helping, but I had learned so much from that, that when it came time for me to take this role, I think that allowed me to step into this in a way that was authentic for who I am and who I am as a woman, because I could be very open. I could be very collaborative. I was very, how do I build this team up? Now that I've learned this, how can I use those values to build this team up, and let's co-create together. And then the other thing I did and I learned just from experience too is, but there were some times, and I was well equipped for this, but there were some times when my team just needed me to tell them it's going to be like this. The answer is this. This is how we do the theory. This is how we're doing that. And they needed to feel confident about it. They needed an answer, and they did need to know that I felt good about that answer. So it was really balancing back and forth between those teams. And that's ultimately how I found the leadership style that still works for me today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So many great things. Let me ask you this, and then we're going to go to commercial break, and we're going to come back into reflection mode. And, what have you taken with you since then? So how would you define how long this period of hot messness lasted?
Wow. It was a hot mess. I want to say for months, into a solid year to a year and a half.
Yes.
Part of why I say that is because we had all of the settling of the clients and the employees, and it was turbulent to begin with, even before I stepped in it. And then we're also now trying to build a real practice, which takes time to get new accounts. So there's all sorts of moving pieces. I'm asserting different ways of working in the practice. And also, I was doing a little bit of alignment and getting some things in place. For example, I took a look at the compensation, and some people weren't getting paid what they were worth because they were more valued, but they came in and they asked for this and that's what they got. So, or I had some human resource issues that I could bring a whole new objective lens to listen.
Yes.
It took me a while to get through just, I'm going to say, cleanup, restart, and like stabilization. Took a while.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Oh, and too many leaders want to gloss over the cleanup stage and just go to the restart stage, or they want to stay in the cleanup stage too long. Like, knowing how to balance those three phases is an art and a science. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to dig into lessons learned since then. All right.
Awesome. Can't wait.
While we're taking a break from this episode's hot mess, I want to talk about one of the hot messes that I know you have, and that's your meetings. Friends, one of the biggest complaints that we have in our businesses is either about the amount of meetings, how long they are, how worthless they are. And my perspective is that your meetings are your most expensive use of your team's time. That means they also need to be the most valuable use of your team's time. And instead, right now, too many of your meetings are spent with just status updates where they could have been an email, or the mansplainer that talks and says that talks a lot but doesn't say anything, or the person who shows up and says, oh, I'm sorry I didn't get this done, I'm sorry I didn't get this done. So then why are you meeting? So instead of leaving your next meeting feeling deflated like Eeyore, I want you to feel like Bruce Lee and kick in some major ass. So that's why I've created this tool for you. It's called Lead Kick-Ass Meetings, and you can get it at stephaniecrevens.com/lead kick-ass meetings. Get it? And it is full of templates, agendas, and icebreakers that you can use. Just copy and paste, plug and play, so that your meetings become an investable use of time for you and your team and your company. I chose these 3 areas for your meeting specifically because they're usually the tools that are most likely to go off the rails for any leader, and you need something that's plug and play. You know, most folks complain that an icebreaker is too cheesy. I've got icebreakers for you that are worthwhile and create connection. Most folks complain that an agenda either doesn't exist or it's so vague you have no idea what you're talking about. I've got agendas for you that are useful from the get-go. And I've got some templates and tools and processes that you can use. Again, just send it out to your team to make the meeting as valuable as possible. All right, my friend, that's what I have for you. I want your next meeting to be worth $1 million, right? It's costing your company a lot of time and money. It's costing you a lot of frustration. Lead kick-ass meetings. Go over to the landing page. It's just stephaniecrevens.com/lead kick-ass meetings. Put in your email. You'll get that tool delivered right to your inbox, and you're going to be a meeting hero as soon as you put those into practice. All right, now let's get back to this episode's hot mess. Let's come back into what you've learned since then. And Whynde, give us a sense, like, how long has that been? Just so we can kind of like think through this in our, brain, have a context.
Good question. Now I have to do math. We're looking at actually 7 years.
Okay.
Because I went out on my own, created my own consulting firm. So yeah, we're looking at about 7 years later.
All right. Awesome. So a good amount of time. And actually in numerology, it's like something turns over in our life every 7 years. So you're on the cusp of something new too. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I took so many notes based on what you said. But gosh, and you alluded to this before break, but what's been your top 1 or 2 lessons from that time that has stuck with you as a leader moving forward?
Absolutely. So I think one is just a confidence and a faith that I can do anything, whatever is thrown my way. I'm going to be able to handle it. I have the abilities, I have the logic, I have the people around me, and I have a trust that the right people, the right resources, the right ideas are going to show at the right time.
Oh, yes.
Right. So just knowing that whatever happens, I'm going to be able to handle it. I'm going to have people around me and we're going to get through it. I think that's a big one. Just that confidence, knowing that like I'm good. I'm going to get this. I can get through anything.
Yes.
I think another really big thing I learned, that maybe this was the first place I learned it, or I really saw it on a bigger scale, but I learned what it really means to create. There's a difference between sight, what I can see in front of me, and a vision, which is something that I want to happen, that I can feel or sense or craft or imagine. And I learned what it was like to have a vision, have to articulate that vision with simplicity and clarity, and in a way that inspires people to want to co-create with you. And the belief I'm going to say it this way, to believe it before you see it, not the other way around, because
yes,
I had to believe the best in the people I was working with, that they would rise to the occasion, and that they did, and that they had more abilities than they were showing in the current conditions. And I had to believe that a new vision and a practice could grow in order for it to happen. And I feel like now, actually, take that 7 years later in my own firm that I've started, like that carried over, and my vision has only gotten bigger. And I'm much more comfortable just saying, here's what I'm dreaming of. I trust it. Now let's just make it happen and bring some other people along to co-create it with me.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful and magical. I heard you say the word trust multiple times and believe multiple times. What is the relationship between belief and trust for you now?
Wow. I'm just going to say it's an utter faith in how things work, that they will work, that other people and maybe higher powers other than me will lead me to really the things that I'm dreaming of, particularly if my heart's in the right place.
Yeah. Oh, what do you want people to know about getting their heart, and especially, we think about mid-level leaders who weren't up at the top of the food chain like you were. Because in essence, for folks not familiar with the consulting structure, a managing director is like the CEO of the consulting company. And it sounds like you were the equivalent of the vice president in that company.
Correct.
For folks who are in that mid-level leader position, manager, director, what do you want them to know about trusting, believing, getting your heart in the right place, and co-creating with other people?
I think it's important to know that we lead from any position. You don't have to be the boss and you don't have to be the top boss. Now, when you understand that, or when you believe that, you can really move mountains. It's when you believe in a bigger cause, or you try to do the right thing, let's say for, well, in this case, the practice, or in the organization in which you work. And there's something about taking ownership for the whole, for the outcomes, not just here's the thing I'm tasked to do, and I'm going to move it from here to here. But when you really care about the bigger picture, it will show. And there are so many ways you can lead and influence the leaders above you towards better outcomes for the company or the organization, for the customer, for the employees, for your own self. And it's like by doing the right thing, that is the way to promotion, and it's the way to make a difference. And I think it's a way to joy for your own self.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I've believed this my entire career, and that's why we offer the leadership challenge. Are you familiar with the leadership challenge?
No, tell me, please.
Yeah, it's these authors have been studying leadership for going on 40 years across the globe, across time. And they say exactly what you said. So intuitively, you have crafted what the scientific data says about leadership is that we lead from any level, you lead from where you're at. And there are 5 exemplary practices of an effective leader. Model the way, so modeling the
Uh-huh.
values, inspiring shared action, a shared vision, if you will. So that co-creation, challenging the status quo, challenging the process, which is my personal favorite. No one is surprised by enabling others to act because we all have a role to play in the shared outcomes, and then celebrating with heart, right? Because none of us do this work alone. And it's the values, it's that vision, it's that heart that actually gets the work done when it's really, really hard. So
Wow, that
we
is
are
beautiful.
so simpatico. Yes. I mean,
Indeed.
this is how big things happen with teams. No other way.
Indeed. And, again, back to the two fellows I was talking about, I've been just so inspired to see the difference that one person can make and a small group of people can make, and the ripple effect on
Yes.
that. So it's just never doubting the impact you have, even as an individual, every single day. Right?
Yes. Yes. All it takes is that one person to stand up and say, I'm willing to make it happen. Who's with me?
Yep,
And then you need that second person to say, I'm with you. Let's
exactly.
go. Oh, I got my goosebumps.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yep.
this is how it happens. Oh, all right. All right. All right. We have had such a rich conversation. One last question, and I'll get you back to changing your part of the world, Whynde. But what do you wish mid-level leaders would do to support the organization and the top leadership when they're leading from where they're at today?
I think some of it is what we were talking about there, right?
Yes.
The looking for any position. But I think there's if we can always have this shifting empathy, just putting ourselves in the other person's shoes, right? Even if I think top leaders, right? Hard decisions are made when we're always trying to do the right thing and balancing so many different factors. So just no matter who we're interacting with, whether it's a peer or a leader at whatever level, just always putting ourselves in those shoes, looking at sort of the world, looking at the prism from that perspective, and then forming our opinions and judgments, and even going so far as we're a team. What can I do to make your life easier? And if everybody thinks about that, what can I do to make your life easier? What can I do to make your life easier? We all end up, I think, in a better place.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Oh, empathy will change the world. I'll tell you what. I know that for sure.
Absolutely.
Woo. Well, Whynde, you are so amazing. Thank you for sharing this really hard, hot mess with us that I know had many emotional layers and many implications, and was what the universe was bringing you right in that moment to propel you into the future. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Perfectly. And thank you so much for having me, for such a rich conversation, and for all that you do to get stories like this out and help leaders around the world.
Ah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'll see you next time. I'll see you in New York City, actually.
In
Yeah,
New York
yeah.
City.
All right. Thank you. All right, my friend, that's my conversation with Whynde Kuehne. Isn't she so empathetic, kind, graceful, gentle as a leader, while being an amazing expert in the world of business architecture? You know, we glossed over the situation that set up her hot mess out of respect for the privacy for all of those involved. But if you remember, it was a 3-minute conversation that she took huddled in the corner of a client's office to hear some crazy news where her co-creator was suddenly out at the organization and she was the people leader for 100 folks in her department. That's a really quick, really big transition. And I want to share with you really like the 20% of the content that has 80% of the impact on me. And wherever you're listening or watching in, would you put your 20% of impact in the comments too? Because we want to learn from you. We want to know what resonated with you. And so a couple of points that I want to highlight for you during our conversation that I think are really important and themes for mid-level leaders at various stages in your career. So one, when she talked about business continuity, too many leaders are just thinking about, how do I survive the day? How do I survive the week? How do I survive the quarter? And really your job as a leader is to think about business continuity. If you, and I know consultants ask you this all the time, but it could be real. Oftentimes they say, if you get hit by a bus, what I like to say and learn from another client is, if you won the lottery and got to retire to your private island tomorrow, what would happen next? Do you know? If you have a key employee that decides to take another role with another organization, do you have a plan in place for that transition? I think the pandemic and the business impacts of the pandemic have called to light many of the weaknesses in our business continuity plans. And as a mid-level leader, I would encourage you to create that plan for your team, for your department, as soon as possible. You are going to shine as a leader, and your team is going to be able to better weather storms because you're more prepared for the unknown. The other thing that Whynde said that really touched my heart, when she said, I have 100 employees, I have 100 families. We're not just responsible. And, of course it's a two-way street, but we're not just responsible for our employees' salaries. We're responsible for their family's well-being, or really their family's financial well-being and other aspects of that. As a leader, do we take that seriously enough? And sometimes that means making hard decisions for our employees to support their families, but just recognizing the fact that our companies provide a livelihood for our families that have one of their members employed at our company. That's a big responsibility that we should carry with some weight and some empathy. I love Whynde's language about being a bridge to the next version of her department. Too many leaders I know put all the burden on their own shoulders. I have to do this. I have to carry the weight. I have to make this happen. And Whynde's metaphor of being a bridge, I think, is a really great one that helps spread the responsibility and accountability to all those involved. I love the fact that you want to pick up that much responsibility, but the reality is it's not all yours to carry. And instead, thinking of yourself as a bridge into the next evolution of your team and organization, I think that's more freeing. It allows us to take responsibility for what is ours and share that accountability with everybody on the team, within the organization that's involved, and even with your own clients, if you're more of a consulting organization and have external clients. So I just love that so much. Also, that thing that I wanted to highlight about Whynde's story is think about all the different stories that people made up based on missed information. I heard this from a client last year, and it just really touched me how important it is. And I know it comes from a variety of places, but I want to give her credit. And it's, in the absence of creating the narrative, other people will make up their own story. Your job as a leader is to craft the narrative so that there is one narrative in your organization and in your team. That is your responsibility, and to share it as wide as possible. 7 by 7 by 7, 7 channels, 7 messages, 7 times. That's what it takes to be effective at communication. And we highlighted this in the episode, and I hope this has been brought to life for you too during the pandemic. But destabilizing times are amazing opportunities to restabilize for the long term in a new way. And usually it means shoring up or strengthening that foundation, because fast growth usually creates instability in some unintended ways. And so when external factors destabilize an organization or a team, it's your opportunity to create a new kind of stabilization and shore up some of the weak parts of your businesses that often happen because of fast growth or high growth. I've seen it time and time again in our organizations. And the last one that I'll leave you with is, leading from every level. You've heard that on this podcast time and time and time again. But what I know from my client work, working with my small and mid-sized businesses, the people that get promoted are the ones that own their leadership regardless of their title. Plain and simple. They're the ones that take responsibility for the outcomes, not just themselves, not just their team, but what are the outcomes? What's the transformation that the goals or the strategy or the organization are trying to accomplish? Leaders who are ambitious and want to get promoted to that C-suite think holistically earlier and more often in their career. All right, my friends, that's what I got for you today. I found that conversation unbelievably rich and insightful, and I hope that you did as well. And if you got value from it, would you do us a favor and share it wherever you're watching or listening in? Share it with another mid-level leader, or share it with your CEO that also maybe needs some encouragement right now, and to learn from other people's lessons, to know that he or she is not alone. But if you got value, we hope the other pro troublemakers in your life will too, and we would appreciate your help in getting the message out. All right, my friends, it is time. Let's shut down the media. Let's get back to the big, impactful work that will change the world, and I'll see you next time.